and let's talk about what we're going to do today. So we're going to build, so there are many different things you can do with Metaverse when it comes to, helping businesses take advantage of augmented reality. Um, and we'll be doing these webinars on an ongoing basis, sort of highlighting different use cases for using AR in businesses. But today we're going to focus on one use case, which is how can you use this to help businesses get customers to come back more often? We call them loyalty programs, and sort of make their experience while inside the place of business better. And so here we've chosen the Omelet Factory, which is a local breakfast place here, and we're going to do a number of things in this little app that we're going to build for them. And in fact, we'll be able to give them this app afterwards and say, here you go, we just did a favor for you and gave you this pretty cool app. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to build a loyalty program. And here people are going to be able to do a number of things. They're going to be able to check in, so they'll have to be at the place of business. So we're going to place it at their location. And so people have to actually go there to interact with this thing. And they'll be able to check in, and we're going to restrict that to them checking in only once per day. We're then going to create a leaderboard, and we're going to keep track of who the people are that are the most active customers of the Omelet Factory. Then we're going to implement a sort of a sweepstakes type functionality that you'll see will tune a probability of a chance to win a prize. And so we'll let customers of the Omelet Factory have a chance to win a prize every time they check in. Then we're also going to create 3 photo walls. I don't know if you've been or recall being to businesses. Oftentimes restaurants have these where they've got this big sort of cork board, and they have pictures of their customers on these cork boards. It makes it feel nice and sort of warm and welcoming, which is really how this Omelet Factory is and wants to be. And so we're going to create basically a selfie wall. Then we're going to allow people to take photos of their meal and create a wall for that. And so hopefully a bunch of folks will be basically taking photos of this awesome meal that they've got in front of them. Also, you may have seen in restaurants where they've got a cork board and they allow their customers to basically pin their business card. And so it sort of creates like this local directory of primarily businesses, I think, that are in the area that are customers. And so we're going to replicate that same kind of capability digitally. And then we're also going to ask the customer to rate the Omelet Factory on Yelp and Google, and we're going to use our web embed web view scenes to be able to do that. And so we should be able to get through most of this. If we, by some reason, don't, I will simply lead you through an experience we've already built, showcasing this. In fact, I'll show it to you now, and then we'll rebuild it. And so here's the experience we're going to rebuild. I built this one last night. It took me about a half an hour to do this entire thing, but here I'll be talking, so it may take a little bit longer. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on here. First, we've got our entry scene that says, welcome to the Omelet Factory. Please choose an option below. And we've got, what is this, 6 options. Check in, take a photo of your meal, review us on Yelp, post to the selfie wall, post to the business card wall, or quit the application. And then if you choose check in, it goes down this path over here. As you can see, it's got a bunch of blocks here. Things that are checking to make sure you don't check in multiple times per day, and telling you that you can't, telling you how many times you've checked in, incrementing the leaderboard, and then taking you through a chance to win a prize, which is this simple probability block, which either says you've won or says here's the number of times you've checked in and thanks you for your business. Okay, and then as you go down these other various paths, as you can see, this one where you take a photo of your meal, says, does your meal look great? Want to add a photo to our food photo wall, and then we sort of go through this. So instead of sort of showing you all of these things, let's go ahead and build one of these. And so I'm simply going to go to studio.gometa.io. And I'm going to go to I'm going to go to the Metaverse demo dimension, which is a place where we keep our demo experiences. You can see here is the omelet factory that we already have. I'm just going to create a new one. And then we're going to call this omelet factory demo. And I'm going to move these things down a little bit so we give ourselves a little bit more room to go up and down. And as you can see, you can sort of keep moving these things around. We'll make this even easier to do. Sometimes it's easier just to zoom out a little bit and sort of now give yourself plenty of room here because we're going to go up and down. Okay, now I'm going to zoom back in. By the way, you can use shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts, if you just do question mark, so shift question mark on your keyboard. You'll see keyboard shortcuts that the studio supports, and so sometimes I'll be using those. And once you get good at these, you can go much faster. Okay, and so let's click on our character. And so, of course, if the restaurant or the place of business that you're creating this experience for does not have an image, in our system, you're going to need to upload one. Here we already did, but as you can see, it's really easy to do. Simply choose an image from your computer, and you can choose not only an image, you can also choose a 3D object, and then you give it a name and tags that are optional, and then publish it. But here we already have it. It's right here. It's the Omelet Factory logo. And we're going to say, we're going to paraphrase here a little bit. Welcome to the Omelet Factory. Please choose an option below. Okay. And so now we need to create a bunch of these buttons, right? And as you can see, we had a bunch of them here, and I'm going to do them in about the same order, although you can reorder them by clicking. If you hover over any of these buttons, you'll see here, let me zoom in a little bit. If you hover over a button to the right of it, you get these little 3 dots. We call this the kebab menu. And then you can click on that, and you can move these things up and down or delete them. Okay, so we're going to do check-in. And so we're going to say check-in. Then we're going to say take photo of your meal. And then we are going to do review us on Yelp and Selfie Wall. Review us. Actually, we're going to say review us online because we're going to do on Yelp and Google. And then we're going to say Selfie Wall. And then we are going to do business card wall and exit. And then the last one we're going to do is exit. Okay, so the exit is easy. We already know what we need to do here. We're going to end the experience, right? The rest of them are going to be linked to other scenes. Okay, I'm going to pause here for a second just to see if anyone's been screaming questions at me. Let me see if I can even see that. Chats, here we go. I can't see your chats. Back to meeting. No. Maybe I have to stop screen share and see it there. Here we go. Okay, cool. So it looks like everyone's still with me, and so I'll proceed here. Okay. Great. So now let's choose the check-in, because that's really the most complex one. And then let's go ahead and build the check-in here. So what we want to do with check-in is, one, allow the user to check in. And then we want to set a time gate that they can only check in once per day. And so we're going to do that. And that's a matter of creating these 2 blocks, set time gate and check time gate. Then we also want to create this property called Omelet Factory Check-ins and keep incrementing it. So this is going to count how many times you've checked in, right? And then we're going to create the leaderboard and increment the leaderboard. So it actually doesn't really matter where we start. because we can always rearrange these blocks and put them in any kind of order we want. The order doesn't really matter. So let's go ahead and just get started. And so when somebody checks in, we're going to increment a user property of their check-ins. And so we go to our blocks over here on the left, and we're going to choose user property. And as you can see, you've got this increment user's property by some number. And this is the block here. Now all blocks show up at the top right. And so sometimes if you're zoomed out, you're going to need to move them down here. Okay, and so again, I'm going to try to create some space for myself here, because I'm going to go sort of down this way and then up this way for these other ones. And so here, I'm going to simply connect this check-in to this block by saying transition to block, and then picking this block here. Okay, now we need to give this user property a name. This is basically, you can create any name you want. I'm just going to say, for Omelet Factory, I'm just going to say OF check-ins. Okay, and so Omelet Factory check-ins. And then, so this block increments the property on the user's account by some value. Now we want to increment it by value of 1, obviously, because we only wanted to give them 1 point every time they check in. Okay, and so we'll put this one over here, and then I'll show you how to rearrange some of these things as you do notes. Now let's add a leaderboard to this. And so we can go to leaderboard and say increment leaderboard. And so leaderboards are a way for us to keep track of any kind of activity. In this case, we're going to keep track of these check-ins of user properties. We can create a leaderboard by simply going to leaderboards.metaverseapp.io, and then we can create a leaderboard right here. And so I can create one called Omelet Factory Demo. If I want, I can give it an image to display at the top of the leaderboard. And there I just simply need to give it a URL to something. In fact, let's go ahead and look at that, see if we can find some kind of an image that would be cool for this. Their logo is not very imagey, but yeah, let's use this one right here. And so I can simply right-click and say copy image address. Right, make sure here that it's an address. Indeed, it is. And so we can simply take this and now paste it here. And then we can give a description, just a demo of leaderboards. And then we can say create. And so now we get some information here that we need to use. Specifically, what we're looking for is this ID over here. So we want to copy it without the single quotes. And now when we go here, what this leaderboard's going to ask for, oops, sorry about that. What this leaderboard's going to ask for is this leaderboard ID, and we simply paste it in here, okay? And so now we've configured this leaderboard that whenever we hit this, it's going to increment it by a value of 1, okay? And so we can then link these blocks together. But actually, instead of linking these blocks, I'm going to sort of create a bunch of them. And I'm actually even going to unlink this one here, because I'm going to want to move these things around a little bit. Okay, and so again, we're creating a leaderboard, we're incrementing a user property, and now we're going to allow them to win something, give them a chance to win something. And so for that, we're going to need, whenever you think chance, give them a chance, think probability. And so we can go to probability, and there are a number of ways we can implement this. If we want the 50-50 chance, we can simply use this simple coin flip. And that's fine, but I doubt that businesses are going to want to give people a 50-50 chance of winning something every time they're there, although they may, but you could certainly use that. The next sort of still super simple, but more configurable probability is the simple probability, and then which is what we're going to use. And then you can go sort of wild with this roll dice and check dice roll pieces, which will let you do all kinds of different probabilities. But we're just going to use this simple probability block. Again, I clicked it, and you may be confused, where is it? Well, remember, we're zoomed way out here, so it's over here. So I need to go up and drag it over here. And I'm just going to put it here towards the end. And so the way this works is you set the probability of whether it goes one way or a different way. Right now it's 50-50. For demo purposes, I'm going to set this to be 0.9, which means 90% chance that we're going to succeed, because we're going to want to demo this thing, and we don't want sort of have a 50-50 chance of it not succeeding. In reality, a business will probably want to give you maybe a 10% chance of winning or a 20% chance of winning for each check-in you do. Actually here, Jonathan, if you don't mind logging into the webinar and seeing chats. Okay, and so we're going to do that. And now we need to create a couple of scenes. And so for the scenes where you've won something, I'm first going to tell you that you indeed won it. Again, there's my scene that came up over here. I'm going to drag it over here. And I'm going to say, congrats. Oops, congrats. You've won a prize. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Oops. Sorry about that. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Congrats, you won a prize. And then you can have a button, for example, that says, what did I win? And then this is going to take us to another scene. And here we're going to use the give item scene, which allows us to give them a prize. And so I'm going to take this scene and I'm going to drag it over here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit more. And now I'm going to simply link this button to the scene. Transition to scene, and then go here. And here now we need to select what it is that we're going to give them. Now, there are two ways you can do this. If you're going to give the same gift over and over again, meaning that you've got some chance of them getting a gift, and there's only one gift that you're going to give them, one thing they can win, then you can simply create an item and then choose that item and give them that. For example, like this key, right? And of course, you wouldn't give them a key. You'd probably give them a voucher, like 20% off a meal or free something, a free coffee, whatever it is, right? Or even a free meal, who knows? Another way to do it, and what we're going to do, is by using what we call an item set. Now, we're going to create a whole other video on how you create item sets and how they work. In fact, we already have one, I think, but we're going to redo it, and we'll link to it for you guys. So I'm not going to get deeply into it, but I'll explain to you what it does. An item set is simply a bunch of different items. Instead of just one item, you can have a bunch of different items. And to them, you can assign both the quantity of how many of them exist and the probability that if you ask for an item from the item set, what's the probability of you getting one type of item or another type of item? For example, not only can you have this simple probability over here that somebody wins something, by using an item set, you can say there's a 10% chance once they win something that they get a free meal, or a 90% chance that they get a discount. Okay, and so this is the way you would do that. And so here I'm going to simply choose this Omelet Factory demo item set that I created when I was first creating this experience over here. So we can simply reuse it. Okay, and then after that, once they get the item, they're going to be able to collect it, and we're going to want to create another scene, basically a character scene that simply says, you know, what did I say over here? You can find the item you want in your profile. And congrats again. So let's do the same thing. It's always good to tell them where that item went. You can find the item you won in your profile / inventory. And then we can simply create a button that goes somewhere else. Okay, and then we, of course, have to link this experience over here. Oh, sorry, this scene over here to this scene here. And here we're going to need to link this simple probability to this scene number 2. And so I'm going to click on simple probability. There's a 90% chance we're going to succeed this time, and so we're going to go 90% chance here. And now we're going to need to create the character scene for what happens if this time we did not win anything. And so we want to tell people that they didn't win anything, but probably don't want to say, hey, you didn't win anything, but say something nice. Here I simply said times you've checked in, and then we appreciate your business. Okay, and so let's do something similar here. And so we can say times, let's zoom in a little bit so you guys can see what I'm typing. Times you've checked in, colon, and then to inject a variable in here, we need to use $, curly braces, open and close, and then within those curly braces, we write props, P-R-O-P-S, dot, and then what we need to do is put in the variable name that we used over here. And so you see it's of underscore check-ins. I'm just gonna copy it and then paste it over here. And so that's going to print out the number of times you've checked in. And then we can say thanks for your business. Okay. And here we can simply link this to the main menu. And of course, the main menu is over there. And we can zoom out. Oops. Sorry about that. And click on this button here. And then say transition to scene. And then go back to the main menu scene. Okay, so there are a few other things that we want to do here, right? We don't want people sort of to keep going check in, check in, check in, check in, and trying to win these prizes and sort of driving up their numbers. And so what we want to do is we want to add a time gate. And so this is part of the time controls set of blocks. And there are two things that we're going to need here. One is to set a time gate, and another is to check the time gate. Let's start with this one, set time gate. And so again, it's going to show up over here. I'm just going to drag it over here. And again, it doesn't really matter where you put it in the order. I like to put it once we've basically sort of written out these user property in this increment leaderboard. And so I'm just going to move these over here. And so I'll put it over here, you know, before we go here, but I could put it afterwards. You want to put it, set time gate only have one destination. So you don't want to set it over here because here we need to go to two places, right? And so you want to make sure it's somewhere where it's just got one single destination. Now, before I do that, actually, let me go ahead and complete this one. As you can see, it's missing this link here, and we're going to do that by saying what happens if check failed. We go here, and now it creates that. Okay, and so now let's look at this time gate. So all this thing needs, well, it needs two things. It needs a name, and then it needs a duration. And so for the name, I'm just going to say Omelet Factory Time Demo. Okay, it doesn't matter what you choose. You can call it anything you want. And then a duration. And so for a duration, we want to set it, you see it says in seconds. So we can do our calculator, and we can say 60 seconds times 60 minutes times 24 hours, and that's going to give us 86,400. And so we're going to put 86,400. Now, in reality, I probably wouldn't make it 24 hours because maybe somebody comes back, you know, early tomorrow, and so I'd probably do it, you know, 12 hours, or even maybe they can come back this afternoon. They came back in the morning, they come back this afternoon, that works as well. So of course you guys can play around with this, but for now we'll just do 24 hours. And then, so we've now set this time gate called this, and I'm actually just going to copy this right here. And so now what we want to do is we want to also create a block that then checks a time gate. And so we're going to say add new, and then we're going to say, choose this one, check time gate active. And we're going to grab it and move it over here. And so here, where do we want to put it? Well, we don't want somebody to, we certainly want them to be able to get to the menu, our main menu here. So we don't want to put it over here. We want to put it somewhere where if they're trying to check in again, it stops them from doing it. Now, do we want to put it somewhere in the middle here? Well, oops, no, probably not. because we don't want this user property to be incremented. So we want to put it right here, right at the beginning. That should be the first thing that we check. And so now we've got this time block here, and it's asking us for a gate name, so we want to use the exact same gate name we used before. These things have to match. This set time gate, omelet factory underscore time underscore demo, and this one must be exactly the same, otherwise it will not work. And so now then it gives us a couple of other options. If the time gate is still active, this means that the time has not yet passed. We want to go and tell them that they can't do this again. And so I'm simply going to add a new scene, make it a character scene. It's going to be up here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can work a little bit better. Move it over here. And now I'm going to zoom back in. And here I'm going to create a message that says you can only check in once every 24 hours. Okay. Try again later. And so here, what I like to do if it's sort of an error message of this sort, I like to put at the beginning of this, if you put a /, see if you just put a / over here at the beginning of this, it turns it black. And that sort of feels like a warning message because it gets rid of this little triangle of the speech bubble and sort of it just hovers there. And so let's go ahead and do that. And so we're going to say if the time gate is still active, we're going to transition to this scene over here. And if the time, now I'm going to move it over here a little bit just so we've got some room here to see it. And if the time gate has expired, well, we want to proceed down this path and transition to the block. And so let's start connecting these things some more. First of all, here we never want to leave it hanging. That's why you've got this red warning sign. And so we want to do something here. We probably want to allow them to go back to the main menu. And so we're going to do that. And then we're going to say transition to scene. And we're going to take our initial scene, scene number 1. Okay. By the way, you can rename these scenes. See, when it starts getting into this stuff where it's, we've got a bunch of scenes coming up. As you can see, there are a bunch of scenes over here. Oops. And you can do that simply by clicking on these names and renaming. I didn't do it here, but it's good practice to do that. So then you can sort of see what's happening. Let me go back. I was using the wrong zoom. Okay. And so let's go ahead and wire this up. So I'm going to say this check-in now works, and we are going to transition to block, and we're going to go to this block. And this block is now configured. Let's make sure, yep, Omelet Factory time demo. And if it's still active, it's going to go here. And if it's not still active, it's going to go increment the user property called Omelet Factory check-ins. Then we're going to, from here, transition to block. And we're going to go to this increment leader block, the leaderboard block. And this one is configured as well with our leaderboard ID. The only thing that it's missing is where it points, and of course it points to another block, which is this set time gate block. This block is all configured with this. The only thing that's missing is the where it points, and we're going to say transition to block, and we're going to go to the simple probability. And then this one, of course, is already configured. We did it. There's a 90% chance you're going to win something, and there's a 10% chance that you're not. If you don't, we're going to tell you how many times you've checked in, thank you for your business, and go to the main menu. If you win, we're going to go down this path over here, and we're going to pick something from the item set, and then we're going to tell you that you can find the item in your profile/inventory. And this thing, as you can still see, is still red. And of course, what should we do here? Well, we should probably take them to the main menu. And so let's go ahead and call this main menu, because sometimes, as I said, it's easier. And so I'm menu. And so I've changed the name over here. And so now over here, even if I don't see it, for example, on my screen, let's say I'm zoomed in right here, and I'm here and I can't see it, so I can't use this little thing that I typically use, I can simply select it from a drop-down. As you can see now, I have all the scenes. They're numbered, but this one is named main menu, and I can simply do that. Okay, and so now we've actually created our just one part of this, the check-in. Now that is the most complex one, and I'm going to drag these down a little bit again just to give myself more room to work on these other ones. As you start building these things more and more, you'll realize sort of spacing is important, and we too are going to get better at sort of automatically spacing these things out for you so that you don't have to do this work manually. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create some of these other ones. Okay, so let's let folks take a photo of their meal. And so the first thing we should do is probably prompt them to do it, even if they click the button. Now we could go directly to a camera scene, but I like to sort of tell them, give them some instructions perhaps, say something nice. And so I'm just going to put this over here. And this one is simply going to say, like what's on the table, question mark, please take a photo of it. Okay. And then now we're going to need to, of course, link this little button to the scene. And here we're just going to do our standard finger and then touch this. Again, I'm going to move it down a little bit here because we're going to need some more room for things up here. And now we're going to need to add a camera scene. Whenever we want somebody to take a picture of something, you need a camera to be able to do that. And so you have to add a camera scene. And there it is. And I'm just going to drag it over here. And now we're going to link this button over here to the camera scene. And I'm just going to make it say, take photo. And then this is going to transition to scene and pick this scene here. Now here, we need to configure a few things. First of all, the default settings for the camera. Now, the user will be able to change them at runtime if they want, but we want it to be sort of natural. Now, we want them to take a picture of their food, which means what we want is a rear-facing camera. If we wanted to get them to take a selfie, which we will do here, we would choose a front-facing camera. So here I just changed it to rear-facing camera. Now, do we want them to do either photo or video? Not for this one. For this one, we just want photos, and so I'm going to say photo only. Now, another thing we can do is we can add these effects. So if any of you use Snapchat and you've seen that you can take a picture of something and there's an overlay over it, right? And so you can create a border, you can put a mustache on you or whatever. So Metaverse supports this as well. And to implement that, all you need to do is to create an image that has some images and a transparent background, which we did yesterday. And so let me just go ahead and find that here. And it's over here. It's just a URL. And you can paste it anywhere. You can host it anywhere. We typically host it at this Imager thing. So if you don't know about Imager, it's cool. It's imgur.com. And here you can simply say new post, and you can upload any photos you want to this. And then it'll give you a link that you can use. And so this link here is actually just a photo we uploaded yesterday there. And as you can see, it needs to have the right aspect ratio here, which we'll post as well in the comments of this video. And then this one simply has their logo. You know, these checkers means that it's a transparent background, and it's got this nice little image here. And so all you have to do is to, inside of your experience over here, simply paste that URL over here. And as you can see, it automatically puts that in there, and so it'll create this nice little sort of a border or top heading in a footer for the photo of the food. And then once they're done with this, we can either go back to the main menu, or I like to say thank you. And so I'm just going to drag this over here, and it's going to say, you know, thank you. Glad that you like your meal. Being presumptive here. Maybe they're posting a picture of that there's a hair in their meal. Hopefully not. Okay, and so now we need to link this camera scene. Remember, we still have these effects here, but we need to do this transition. So we need to transition to a scene and go to this scene here. And then here we need to transition back to main menu and then say transition to scene, and then go back to our main menu scene here. Okay, so as you can see, we're sort of going down this path. We can then, let's see what else we've got on our plate here. By the way, it's always a good idea to check these things. Now, if we check this thing over here, if we do it right, we're going to trigger this set time gate, and we're not going to be able to come back in. So for testing purposes, one thing we may want to do is over here, and we'll need to remove it later, is to put clear time gate and simply go back to the time controls. And you see we've got this thing called clear time gate. Okay, so I'm going to put that over here and then link this to clear time gate. And then this time gate needs the exact same name as these time gates, because that's how we can clear this time gate. Okay, and here we can just transition this one back to here, or we can go to check time gate active. There are a bunch of different places we can go to. I'm just going to go back to the main menu. Okay, hopefully you guys understood that. But this is just a way for us to test, because once we're about to test and go this way, we're going to set off these time gates and we're going to get blocked. So let's go ahead and do that, and we may find bugs. So it's good to check for bugs as you're going through developing. Let me just get my phone connected here. Okay, and so there's my phone. And I'm going to move this as well. And then we're going to say test on device. Okay, and so we should get our omelet factory. That's Luis over there and Jonathan over there. Okay, so it says welcome to the omelet factory. Please choose an option below. And as you can see, when we've got more than 4 options, it gives us this overflow at the bottom. And so we can tap on that and now get this kind of a menu. Here I'm just going to say check in, and it's going to say congrats, you won a prize. Okay, so it went all the way through this thing here and instantly took us to congrats, you won a prize, which is good because we have a 90% chance. And then I can say, what did I win? And it's going to go and it's going to say, yep, you won free bacon at the Omelet Factory. Now, I got to tell you, this is probably as good a prize as you can get. Free bacon is awesome. I'm a big fan. And it goes in my inventory, and this thing says you can find the item you want in your profile inventory, and then takes us back to the main menu, and there we get the main menu. Okay, so that worked well. Now let's go ahead and try to check in again. And indeed, we get you can only check in once every 24 hours, try again later, right? Now again, if we didn't have this clear time gate, we'd have an issue testing this again, because maybe we don't have to test again, but if we make any changes, it's a good idea to set this up. Now you also, of course, want to remember to remove it when you put this thing into production. But I'm going to go ahead and clear the time gate, and now we'll be able to go through this check-in process again. And I'm going to try just to make sure. And sure enough, we want something else and more bacon. I think the only thing we put in this thing is bacon, and so we're only winning bacon. Okay, and I'm going to end the experience. Well, actually, no, let's go ahead and check the other thing we just did as well. Oh, no, before we check the other thing, so that's great. We took a selfie and we said, great, but guess what? Nothing is happening with that other than we took a selfie, but we didn't do anything with the selfie, right? So to do something with the selfie, we need to create a photo wall, which is the primary thing you're going to do with a selfie. You can actually do other things, but in this case, we're going to create a photo wall. And so we're going to need to do a couple of things. First of all, we're going to need to actually go create a wall. And to do that, we go to photos.metaverseapp.io. And now we're going to create a photo wall. We're just going to give it a name. In this case, I'm going to say Omelet Factory demo and say create. And again, we get a few pieces of information that we need. Specifically this one right here. So we're going to copy this right here, again, without the single quotes. And we are going to go to our storyboard. And we're going to need to add a block. And that block is going to be from the camera category here. And it's this one, upload to a photo wall. And so by now you know that it's sitting somewhere over here. And so I'm going to grab it and put it here. You guys check if people have questions. Upload to a photo wall. And now I'm going to link this Omelet Factory one. I'm going to relink it because it needs to actually go to this. So it needs to transition to a block and then go here. And on this block here, we need to paste in our photo wall ID over here. And then this thing source here, this is an optional thing. We're not going to use it here. But if you've got a photo wall that you're creating, and you may have multiple experiences or even multiple scenes within an experience, multiple cameras, for example, that are pasting to the same photo wall, you can simply put a tag here to let you know which one of those it went through. It'll simply display on the photo wall underneath the photo. So that's the only thing this thing does here. In fact, I'll create it here just to show you, but we're just going to say from food. And so that should show up on our photo wall. Okay, and now that we've got this upload to photo wall block, the last thing we need to do is transition this block to this scene. This scene is already configured, and so now this should work. And let's go ahead and test that. So we can load our photo wall here. We can simply click on this, or this ID that you get here, you simply put it behind this photos.metaverseapp.io. And so you can simply say / an ID. And as you can see right now, this photo wall is blank. So we're going to go here and we're going to test this on our device. And I'm going to do this. And we're going to say test on device. And we are going to get the Omelet Factory here again. And we've checked in already. Now we're going to take a photo of our meal. And it's going to say, like what you see on the table, please take a photo of it. Take photo. We get our camera, as you can see, we've got our filter here at the bottom. We've got this thing, and we've got that thing. And so I'm going to take a picture of hopefully something delicious. Let's say eggs and bacon. Now, of course, I could have simply taken a picture of my knee, but let's see. We don't take a picture of some kind of a meal, hopefully, here. Images. Okay, how about that? Sure. And so now I'm going to take a picture of this. I'm going to do it. So I'm going to take it like this. The problem with the photo wall right now is we've got a bug in it that is going to do it sideways, but that'll be fixed soon. And so now this is going to upload this image to the photo wall. As you guys saw, my network is kind of slow right now, so that's why it's taking a while, but typically it goes super fast. And it says, thank you, glad you liked your meal. And we can go to the main menu, and sure enough, it goes to the main menu. I'm going to check one more thing here that exit works. It does. There you go. And now we can go back to our experience over here. Oh, sorry, our photo wall over here, and simply refresh it. And there's that photo we just took. Okay. Now, let's keep going down this path. And let's see, though, we've got only 10 minutes. And so instead of maybe doing these, so the business card wall is going to work exactly the same as this. Is you just take a picture. The selfie wall is going to act exactly the same. So actually, instead of doing those, why don't I see if you guys have any questions, and then we can either address some of these or create something else perhaps that you want us to do. So I'm going to, am I still presenting here? Yeah. Okay, great. Stop sharing. Okay, so let's see. Go little bit of trouble trying to zoom in, see numbers of scenes yesterday. Okay. Okay, great. Do you guys have any questions on this? Does this make sense? Do you feel like you can do it? Okay. How the ratings work. Yes, let's do the ratings. Are the individual images on the wall callable to use within the scene? They are. So yes, you can take an image and you can save it as a user property and then be able to recall it directly using a web view scene, which is actually similar to what we're about to do here with the ratings. Let's go ahead and rate it. Yeah, so that is important. And so let me reshare my screen. Okay, so let's go ahead and, oh, I guess we didn't, oh, there it is, review us online. Totally forgot about that. Okay, thanks for reminding me. So now I'm gonna say add new, and so we can add a new character scene, which again, we typically like to do, start things off and tell people what's happening, although you don't have to, you can go directly to this web view scene we're gonna use. So I'm gonna move this over here, and then I'm gonna link this review us online to scene and transition to this camera scene here. I'm sorry, to this character scene here, and this is gonna say, ratings help us greatly. Thanks for taking the time to rate. Okay. And so now we can create a couple of actions here. Rate on Yelp, and create another one that says rate on Google. Or we could have simply created one path that says rate us and then taken them down. Rate us on Yelp. Thank you. Do you also mind rating us on Google? In fact, let's go ahead and do that, and that would be even better. And so now we're going to add a new scene, and we're going to add a web view scene. And so we're going to zoom out to find our scene. There it is. And so web view is a super powerful type of scene because you can embed any website. And so you can simply link this button to transition to scene and then choose this scene. And the only thing we need for the web view scene is the URL of Yelp and Omelet Factory. So we need to find Omelet Factory on Yelp. And here it is. Make sure we get the right Omelet Factory. Nope, that's actually the wrong one. And so we want the one in Santee. This is the one. They've got the same name, but they're different things. And so we can link directly to this writer review URL. Perhaps this is the easiest way to do it. And or we could have linked to the other one, let people navigate there. But we want to try to get this as deep in as possible because this one's already here. And so now we simply take this URL and then we paste it right here. And that's going to link us to Yelp. And then after that, there's going to be a next button. And so see, there it is. It resolved it, and here it's showing it up here now. And then we're going to create another character scene. We can say, please rate us on Google as well. And then here, perhaps it's going to be, oops, I need to zoom in so I can see what I'm typing here. And here, maybe you give them two options, no thanks, and so then back to the main menu, or I will, you see. And so no thanks can simply take us back to the main, main menu scene. And I will can take us through. Now let's make sure we link this one, transition to scene, and go to this scene here. And now we will do one more web view scene. and put it over here. And now transition this to the web view scene. And now we'll go and do Omelet Factory on Google. And here we can simply go here, Santee. And you see where it's got these Google reviews over here. There you go, we can simply write a review. And take this, actually this writer review, I don't think this is the right URL because it's in the modal. Let's see if we can get this out of a modal. I guess we'll have to be in the modal. Let's see if that'll work. Okay, but we can always find the URL of this thing by doing a little bit of inspection here. Okay, and so now I'm going to go here and then paste this, oops, not this here, but right here, paste this URL. Okay. And after this, we want to, yeah, there it is. And after this, we want to either say, go back to the main menu or create another character scene. Here, I'm just going to say, for expedience, we're just going to automatically transition back to the main menu. Now, actually, we should say thank you. It's always nice to say thank you on these kinds of things. And we'll give you guys access to these experiences later so you can play around with them yourselves. And so we'll save it out for you so you can see it. And so here I'm simply going to transition to a scene, this scene here. It's going to say thank you very much. Okay. And then this one is going to transition to scene. That's going to go back to the main menu scene. So that's how you create these ratings. And again, we can go ahead and test this. Make sure we've got no bugs in it. Launch our app. And we're going to go test on device. And we're going to say review us online. Rating say help us greatly. Rate on Yelp. There's our Yelp. And so we can rate them here. Blah, blah. Next. Rate us on Google. I will. Go to Google. And rating here is usual more difficult. Some stuff on this first. Where are the ratings? Okay, well, here we'll do some troubleshooting for you guys and post it in the comments of the video that we post on the actual URLs. You gotta sometimes look through it, but this is why testing is important. You want to make sure you make it easy for people to do this once you built this thing. Okay, so we're actually running out of time here, so let's take a quick look. Are there more questions? Okay, awesome. Makes sense. Makes sense. All right, folks. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Hopefully this was helpful. We'll post this video so you can watch it again. We always appreciate, just like the Omelet Factory does, when you tell your friends about us. So please send the videos to your friends and invite your friends to come to the next webinar we're going to do. It's not going to be next week because a number of us are leaving for Burning Man. It'll be my 9th year, but we'll be back in a couple of weeks and we'll be doing more of these. Luis is still going to be around, so he may do some fun things with you guys. So keep watching the Metaverse Pioneers and Professionals Facebook groups for updates.